Good morning, students. Welcome back to the online class for Standard 10. We have read the chapter A Letter to God, which is written by G.L. Fuentes. So, in the last session, I had asked you some of the questions. Let's discuss them. What did Lencho hope for? Lencho hoped for rain or a shower of rain, which promised a good harvest. Second question. Why did Lencho say the raindrops were like new coins? Lencho said that the raindrops were like new coins because he considered the raindrops as coin. What is the reason for that? Because this after the rain, the corn will give or it will yield more, it will give profit and it will bring prosperity for him. And so the rains would bring the hope of a good profit, and that's why he considered the raindrops as new coins. Question number 3. How did the rain change? The rain changed into hailstorm. What happened to Lencho's fields? Lencho's fields were completely destroyed. The strong wind blew the flowers which were dotted on the corn plant. All the corns were damaged and destroyed. The whole field was covered with hail. Question number 4. What were Lencho's feelings when the hail stopped? Lencho felt very sad. His heart was filled with sadness. He was upset because they would remain hungry for the next year as the hailstorm destroyed his cornfield. Let's come to the next part. But hearts of all who lived in that solitary house in the middle of the valley, there was a single hope: help from God. You can underline that line, help from God. So, what do you mean by solitary here? Solitary refers to aloneness, single, one. So I have already told you that there was only one house in that valley on the top of the hill. So in the hearts of all refers to the members of the family of Lencho and the other family members. So those who lived in that single house in that middle of the valley, they had only one hope. So what was that? That God will help them. So there was help from God. Don't be so upset. Even though this seems like a total loss, remember, no one dies of hunger. So they kept telling themselves that God is there. He will definitely help them. So nobody dies of hunger. And that's what they say. No one dies of hunger. So they had this faith on God that God will never leave the children alone. God will never let them sleep hungry. So they will definitely going to overcome this problem. So he told the people, the children, that don't be upset. The women said, and the family members, they consoled each other that don't worry, nothing bad will happen to them. So there will be hope from God. All through the night, Lencho thought only of his one hope, the help of God, whose eyes, as he had been instructed, see everything, even what is deep in one's conscience. So, what is the meaning of conscience? An inner sense of right and wrong. So, what he consoled himself that yes, there is God, he will definitely help him. But he couldn't sleep that night. So, he said that he has been instructed that God is there, he is seeing everything. He will never leave him alone. Lencho was an ox of a man, working like an animal in the fields. So Lencho was a very hard working person. He was an ox. Ox here refers to ox of a man refers to very hard working. He was a very simple person. He was concerned with his fields only. He walked like animal day and night in the field, but still he knew how to write. So the following Sunday he decided, and let's see what he decided. Sunday at daybreak he began to write a letter which he himself would carry to town and place in the mail. It was nothing less than a letter to God. So, though he was very simple, hardworking person, he had some knowledge of writing. So he wrote down a letter to God, and he decided that the following Sunday, the next Sunday, he will go to the town and he will place it in a mail. He will post the letter. God, he wrote, if you don't help me, my family and I will go hungry this year. I need 100 pesos in order to sow my field again and to live until the crop comes, because the hail's turn. So, what he wrote down in the letter? He wrote down that God, you help me. If you don't help, what will happen? That his family and he will go hungry this year. And how much money he needed? He needed 100 peso. Peso is the currency of Latin American countries. So here peso refers to money. So how much money he needed from God? 100 pesos. And what he will do with that money? He will sow the field again. And he will leave until the crop comes. So with some money he will sow his field, and he will keep some of the money for with himself to leave until the crops comes out and he gets some money. And he wrote down the reason why it happened, because the hailstorm destroyed and all those things. So he wrote to God on the envelope, put the letter inside, and still troubled went to town. So he was troubled. Why he was troubled? He had certain doubts, but still he had strong faith in God. So he wrote down what was written on the envelope? To God and nothing else. And he took the letter with him and went to the town. At the post office, he placed a stamp on the letter and dropped it into the mailbox. So he went to the post office, took out the letter, put the stamp on it, and dropped it in that mailbox. So let's see what happened next. One of the employees, who was a postman and also helped at the post office, went to his boss laughing heartily and showed him the letter to God. So what happened next? So one of the employees, so who was he? He was a postman and he also helped in the post office. So what he did? He just took out the letters which were in that mailbox, and when he was sorting the letters, he found out this one, and he took this to his boss. And who is this boss? Boss here is the postmaster. He went to his boss and laughed. He was laughing heartily. So he was laughing too much. You can say he was laughing to his heart's content, and he showed him this letter. And what was written on it? To God. Never in his career as a postman had he known that address. So as the postman, his duty is to go door to door to deliver the letters, but in his whole entire career he had never seen this address. So nothing else was written, only to God. No place, nothing, no pin code. So nothing was written, only to God was written. So it was quite funny for him. So he laughed and he went to the postmaster and showed him. The postmaster felt amiable. What is the meaning of amiable? Friendly and pleasant. Fellow also broke out laughing. So when the postman gave this envelope which had the letter of Lencho to the postmaster, he broke out laughing. He laughed loudly. But almost immediately he turned serious and, tapping the letter on his desk, commented, "What faith! I wish I had the faith of the man who wrote this letter, starting up a correspondence with God." So what happened? So the postman gave this letter to postmaster. In the beginning the postmaster also laughed, but suddenly he became very serious. And why he became serious? Because he saw that this man had tremendous faith in God. And he said, "What faith?" And he decided, he thought that, "I wish I had the faith of the man who wrote this letter. So, so that he also could correspond. Correspondence means communicate, talk with the God. So, in order not to shake the writer's faith in God, the postmaster came up with an idea. So, what he said? He also got very serious and understood that this man must have a lot of faith in God. But if his faith will be shaken up, what will happen to him? So, in order not to shake the writer's faith in God, what the postmaster did? He came up with an idea. Answer the letter. But when he opened it, it was evident that to answer it, he needed something more than goodwill. So, what was written in that letter? That God, we are in trouble. We need 100 pesos. So, when the postmaster opened the letter and he said, let's write down the answer of this letter, because he'd never wanted the writer's faith to be shaken up. So, he decided to write the answer. But when he opened and read the letter, he needed something else. And what was that? It was money. So, he said he needed something more than goodwill, ink and paper. But he stuck to his resolution. He asked for money from his employees. He himself gave part of his salary, and several friends to his were obliged to give something for an act of charity. So, how he collected the money? So, you can underline this line, that he asked for money from his employees, the people who were working in that post office. And he also himself gave part of his salary. And next, he asked his friends to contribute to this cause, that they will help someone, the person who is in need. So, for this act of charity, he requested everybody to contribute. And finally, they contributed the money. But, let's see. It was impossible for him to gather together the 100 pesos. So, he was able to send the farmer only a little more than half. He put the money in an envelope addressed to Lencho, and with it a letter containing only a single word as a signature, God. So what he did? He collected the money. He asked his friends, his employees to contribute. He gave part of his salary, and then he kept the money inside the envelope. But it was not the whole amount. It was little more than half. So how much money he wanted? 100 pesos. So it was more than 50, but not 100. And then he kept the money, and what he wrote down? The whole letter, the reply to the letter? No. The money was inside the envelope, and only the word God was written at the signature point. So this is, up to this we have read. Let's do some oral comprehension check. Who or what did Lencho have faith in? God. What did he do? He wrote a letter to God. Who read the letter? You can see who read it. He opened it. He refers to the postmaster. Postmaster read the letter. What did the postmaster do then? The postmaster collected money. He asked his employees to give some money. He himself gave part of his salary and asked several friends to contribute for an act of charity. Let's come to the next part. The following Sunday, Lencho came a bit earlier than usual to ask if there was a letter for him. It was the postman himself who handed the letter to him, while the postmaster, experiencing the contentment of a man who was performed a good deed, looked on from his office. So, the next Sunday, Lencho came to the post office, and he came earlier and asked the postman if he had any letter. And the postmaster gave him that letter. And the postman, while handing the letter, and what was the postmaster doing? He was looking on from his office with satisfaction that he has done something good. He has helped somebody. He has helped a needy person. So the postmaster was feeling very happy. He was full of joy. He was full of satisfaction that he has done, he has performed a good work. He has helped somebody. And he wanted to see the reaction of this man. He wanted to see the happiness in the face of Lencho. So he was looking from his office while the postman handed him the letter. Lencho showed not the slightest surprise on seeing the money. Such was his confidence. But he became angry when he counted the money. God couldn't have made a mistake, nor could he have denied Lencho what he had requested. So Lencho was not at all surprised to get the letter from God. He had such tremendous faith. He has confidence on God that God will definitely help him. So he had no surprise on the face when he saw the money, but he became very angry. So why Lencho became very angry? Because the money which was sent by God was not what he required. He wanted 100 pesos, but the money was less. So he thought that God could not have made the mistake. After all, he is God. He can't make any mistake. Nor could he have denied Lencho what he had requested. Or God would never say no to Lencho and what only 100 pesos he wanted. So God definitely would have said no to him. So then immediately Lencho went up to the window to ask for paper and ink. On the public writing table, he started to write. With much winking of his brows caused by the effort he had to make to express his ideas. He was thinking and making different faces and winking his brows, thinking hard to write down the letter. So when he finished, he went to the window to buy a stamp which he licked and then affixed to the envelope. He went to the post office counter, took the paper, pen, wrote down the letter, and he thought very seriously what to write down, and after much effort, so he wrote down the letter and he bought the stamp and then put the letter into the envelope with a blow of his fist, and then the moment the letter fell into the mailbox. So what was happening? The postmaster was looking all these activities, that there was no surprise on the face of Lencho. Then he got angry when he counted the money, and he was curious. He was inquisitive. So what was there in that letter? Perhaps he thought Lencho would thank him, or he would be full of gratitude, but he wanted to know what was there in that letter. The letter fell into the mailbox. The postmaster went to open it. The postmaster, who was earlier feeling very happy and was full of satisfaction, and he was very curious to know what Lencho had written in this letter. So when the letter fell into the mailbox, he quickly went there and he opened it. And what he saw there? What was written in that letter? Let's see. God, of the money that I asked you for, only 70 pesos reached me. Send me the rest, since I need it very much. But don't send it to me through the mail, because the post office employees are a bunch of crooks. Lencho. So what was written in the letter? He was telling to the God that he needed 100 pesos and he received only 70. So how much money, how much pesos he wanted now? 30 more. So he said, please send me the rest amount of money, because he is in great need. He needed it the most. And he told to God, please don't send the money to this post office, because the people here, the employees here in this post office, they are a bunch of crooks. Perhaps they have taken my 30 pesos. So these people are crooks. They are corrupted. Please don't send the money here. You send it in some other way, perhaps. So, what would be the reaction of the postmaster after reading it? You can tell, you can write down later on. So, let's check the oral comprehension. Was Lencho surprised to find a letter for him with money in it? No, because he was confident. He had full faith on God. What made him angry? That what made him angry? Because he got less amount of money than he had demanded. He only got 70 pesos, but he demanded 100 pesos. So this is all about the thing. I hope you have understood the chapter. In the next class, we'll discuss the question answers. We'll write down the question answers of this. Thank you.